So we're in the week of October 26th through the 29th. We're finishing up muscular system and muscle physiology. All right, so we went over the arm last class, in the last video. So we are actually going to cover the leg today. All right, we're also going to cover the types of muscle tissue. We didn't really get to focus too much on that last time. We're also going to go over some muscle physiology. So we're going to start with some comparison of different types of muscle tissue.
You said the head and the neck is arm?
No, arm will not. Quiz will be Thursday. So again, quiz is over your axial or your head and neck muscles, okay, muscle tissue, okay. So you're gonna have a word bank. You're having to, you'll see pictures of muscles and you'll have to identify them, okay. So that's basically what the quiz is gonna be like. So all right. So we saw this one in class last week. So this is skeletal muscle. So you know that because these fibers, skeletal muscle fibers, run. Okay, so basically you got, you turn it on the side. You have your myofibrils with the sarcomeres in them. So these are myofibrils. They run straight. They're not branched. They have T-tubules, okay, the blue. And they have terminal cisterna on either side, making a triad. Okay, so that's, you have multinucleated. You see lots of mitochondria around here. Make ATP. So this is skeletal muscle, okay? And we'll compare that, okay? This one is cardiac muscle. Okay, how do I know it's cardiac muscle? Okay, it's branched. Okay, very good. Okay, how else do I know it's cardiac muscle? Intercalated disc, okay? So other than that, it's very similar, right? You've got a little bit of sarcoplasmic reticulum, you have myofibrils, but you have branching and intercalated disc, okay? So that's how you can tell the difference. We also have, last but not least, smooth muscle. How do we know this is smooth muscle? What do you know about the shape of smooth muscle? Spindle shaped, yes. So it's kind of pointy at the ends. All right, so you can see that here. And also if I turn it, okay, you get a good view of the spindle shape there as well. So you don't see the myofibrils in the same way with the sarcomeres, okay? So you don't have that structure. All right, but I wanted you to be able to easily tell if you see one of these models on a practical, how they're different. So, it's basically be able to tell which one is which. All right, so that's that. So let's go ahead and switch back to our presentation. All right, so let's transition from that to muscle physiology. Okay. This is exercise 22 in the old book, but I think in the new book, this is part of exercise 10. All right, so here's, in our lecture, we discussed this as well, but we've got different versions of muscle contractions, okay? So the first pattern we have is Treppe. Okay, so with Treppe, your tension increases with each stimulus that's going to be delivered after completion of the relaxation phase. Okay, so what I want you to make sure you know or get out of this one, so for Treppe, the stimulus after relaxation phase is completed. Okay. Okay, with wave summation, you actually get a greater increase in tension. That happens when the successive stimuli are arriving before the relaxation phase is completed. Okay. Now, we also have tetanus. And with incomplete tetanus, you have an even greater increase in stimulus, but tension gets to a peak. You have brief relaxation periods. Versus with complete tetanus, frequency of stimulus is so high, you eliminate a relaxation phase. You get a plateau. So if you're trying to understand the difference between all four, with Treppe, you get the stimulus after the relaxation phase is completed. Wave summation, you get a stimulus before the relaxation phase is completed. Incomplete tetanus, you get a brief relaxation phase, but it's briefer than what you get with wave summation. And then with complete tetanus, you get no relaxation phase. So there's no time to relax. Okay? So that is these four types of muscle contraction. All right. Okay, another concept we want you to understand is just kind of the period of different phases of contraction. So basically, the time before there's a stimulus is resting phase. Now, the time between the stimulus and a response is the latent period. Once you get a response, start getting some increased tension, that's the contraction phase. So you get to maximum tension. And then at that point, you hit the relaxation phase. So you get back to zero tension. Okay, assuming you get a complete relaxation phase. Once you get back to completed or zero tension, you enter a resting phase again. But you should be able to look at these graphs. Like for the contraction graphs, you should be able to tell which type of contraction that is if you see one on a practical. And for this graph, you should be able to look at this and tell me which phase. Okay. So I'll put my arm up here. What phase is this? Relaxation phase. What phase is it here between the stimulus and the response? Latent period. Right here. Contraction phase. And right here. Resting phase. Okay? That's what you want to be able to do. All right. So we're actually from here. I think y'all have this one. I think what I'd like for you to do is take a minute and describe the 4 different kinds of muscle contractions at your tables. So James, if you want to work with Megan, that would be great. So, Megan and Brooke, if y'all want to shout across the back, you can. You can do this at home. All right, so now let's cover muscles of the pelvic girdle and the lower limbs. So we're going to start out in the pelvic girdle. So this is the psoas major, okay, the P silent, and the iliacus, okay, on the inside of the os coxae bone. All right, both of these muscles, think about if they contract, they're going to help you flex your thigh, okay? So your spinal cord is going to be more, and your hip are going to be more of your origins, and connections on the humerus will be more of the insertion. So the humerus is what's going to move, okay? So collectively, we call this the iliopsoas group. Now, here along the sacrum, we have the piriformis muscle. Okay, you can see the tendon for the piriformis here helps to abduct the thigh. So again, sacrum is going to be the origin. It's like the greater tubercle of the humerus. It's going to be the insertion. If it contracts, it's going to pull that part of the humerus toward the sacrum. And it's going to abduct your thigh. All right, now the obturator, you can see it, pieces of it back here and here. Okay, so when it contracts, it actually helps to do a lateral rotation because it attaches, the insertion is on the posterior part of the femur. So when it pulls the posterior of the femur toward the midline of the body. And that, in a sense, makes you laterally rotate your thigh. Now, collectively, we call this a lateral rotator group. Okay? So these are tough to excuse me. These are tough to see, but you may see a picture with these. Okay, in some of the models, you can take the torso off, front torso off, and you can see some of these muscles. So, particularly on the larger ones, easier to see. Organs, so you can see part of your iliopsoas, iliacus. Right, and some of the others are more difficult to see there, but you can see the iliacus. On the inside of the ilium. All right, next set of muscles are the adductor group. Okay, they're called that because they help to adduct the thigh. Okay, bring it back toward the midline. So back here and here, that is Adductor Magnus because it's the larger of the muscles. So it can adduct and it can flex the thigh. Adductor longus here, it also adducts and flexes the thigh. Adductor brevis, or smaller one, you see, also adducts and flexes the thigh. Now this thin muscle here is your gracilis. It's involved in adducting your thigh. Also flexing and medially rotating your leg. So it can both flex and it can also medially rotate. Okay, that's your adductor group. Okay, this one's probably going to be easiest to see on the leg models that you take. So if you got a leg model and it's standing up, you might want to take it off the stand. It might be easier to see those muscles to do that. And these are deep, so sometimes you may end up these muscles are on the inside of the leg. And just that's the longest. So here's the reason where you want to do it. Okay, so y'all can see me, right? There might be one or two you get a picture of. So I'll give y'all a couple of minutes. Try to locate these. You can do this at home if you've got blank versions that are in Canvas. So here's another view of the thigh. So you can see some of the muscles that we've already seen, like iliacus and psoas major. Okay, you might be able to see this muscle that kind of goes at an angle, oblique kind of muscle here. That's your sartorius. Okay, so you should be able to see that. All right, you can also see a view of that gracilis and adductor magnus that we've already covered. Large muscle in the anterior portion of your thigh, that is your rectus femoris. On the medial side of the rectus femoris is the vastus medialis. On the lateral side of the rectus femoris is the vastus lateralis. Collectively, these three muscles make up what we call the quadriceps group, or quadriceps femoris. And here's your patella, your quadriceps tendon, patellar ligament. All right, here's another view of the adductor brevis, adductor longus, and adductor magnus. But what I really want you to look for now, look for your sartorius, look for rectus femoris, vastus medialis, vastus lateralis. Okay, so I'll give you all a minute to find those. All right, so remember what the muscles do, because you will have to say the actions of the muscles on a few cases on the practical. Just think about where the muscles are on the body, what side of the body they're on. So on the anterior surface of the thigh, they're going to flex your hip, okay? And they can extend your leg out at the knee. All right. Muscles in the lower leg, if they contract, okay, they're going to dorsiflex your ankle, dig in your heel. Muscles on the superior surface of your foot, the top of your foot, if they contract, they will extend your digits, your toes. On the posterior surface, muscles in the upper leg, they can extend your hip. Okay, so if they contract, they can extend your hip or your thigh. They can also flex your leg. Okay. Muscles in the lower leg on the posterior side, like your calf muscles, your gastrocnemius, will plantar flex your ankles. Okay, so you can stand on your tippy toes. Muscles on the inferior surface of your foot, they contract, they'll flex your digits. Okay, so hopefully this will help you so you don't have to memorize every muscle and what it does. Hopefully this kind of helps you just to logically think about it. All right, so we've seen a lot of these already. The sartorius, adductor longus, the gracilis, iliacus, and psoas major, rectus femoris, and it extends the leg. All right, so, all right, flexes your thigh, but also extends the leg. So you're kicking, okay? All right. So, yeah, flexes the thigh, extends the leg, okay? And vastus lateralis and medialis extend the leg. So we've gone over that already. Behind the rectus femoris is the vastus intermedius and extends the leg. It's intermedius because it's intermediate between the vastus lateralis and vastus medialis. Let's look at the posterior side of the leg. All right. It's your biceps femoris. So just like you have a biceps muscle in your arm, you have a biceps muscle in your legs, biceps femoris, the femur, right? So it will extend the thigh, okay? It'll also flex your leg. Biceps, who has two heads, all right? So here and here. Now this is your semitendinosus. Also extends the thigh and flexes the leg. Okay, right here it's kind of diagonal. Just a little deep to the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus. Also extends the thigh and flexes the leg. Okay, then here's another view of the Sartorius. Okay. And again, it's involved in flexion, abduction, and lateral rotation of the thigh. Okay. This muscle, I shouldn't probably have to tell you what it is, but anybody know what this one is? Gluteus Maximus. Okay. All right. So I'll give y'all a couple minutes to find these, particularly the biceps femoris, semitendinosus, semimembranosus. Okay. That's what we're looking for. All right, so as we mentioned, it's large muscle, gluteus maximus. All right, so when it contracts, okay, helps you extend your thigh. So like if you're running and you press against the ground as you're running, you're using your gluteus maximus to help. It's one of the muscles you're using to do that. Also helps, if you think about the way that it is, the way the muscle fibers run. If it contracts where the origin and insertion are, it's going to help laterally rotate your thigh away from the midline. All right, this small muscle here is your tensor fasciae latae. Okay, it is not a drink at Starbucks. It is a muscle in your body. All right, so it flexes, abducts, and medially rotates your thigh. Okay, so it helps you with. But if you think about it, it is kind of more toward anterior, so it helps with flexion of the thigh, and it helps with abduction. If you think about where it's located, if it contracts, it squeezes, pulls your leg out. And it also helps with medial rotation. Now, deep to the gluteus maximus, you can see part of the gluteus medius. Okay, it's involved with abduction. So again, if it contracts, pulls your leg out away from the midline, also helps with medial rotation. Okay. Here's another view of your Adductor Magnus and your gracilis. So gracilis kind of runs straight up and down. Sartorius runs diagonal. Okay, so that should help you kind of orient yourself. All right. Here's another view of some of those muscles in the pelvic girdle. So deep to the gluteus maximus and gluteus medius. So you can see here's piriformis, obturator, another muscle, gemelli, obturator externus. All right. Quadratus femoris. Here's your obturator externus. That's the one that we've been talking about. All right, so let's talk about your muscles in your lower leg. Okay, so on the flexor side and the anterior, you have tibialis anterior. Okay, why do you think it's called tibialis? Because it kind of runs along the tibia, right? It's on the anterior side. And it's anterior. So when it contracts, again, anterior, they contract, dorsiflexes the ankle. Okay, brings your toes up. Also helps to invert the foot, turn it toward the midline. See here, extensor digitorum longus. If it has extensor in the name, what does it do? It extends, right? It has digitorum in the name, what does it extend? The digits, right? The phalanges. All right, so extend your toes. And so down here you can see the tendon of the extensor hallucis longus. Okay, it's kind of difficult to see the whole muscle here, but hallucis, okay, is a derivative of hallux, which is great toe or big toe, and it is involved in extension and lateral rotation of the thigh. Now here on the posterior side, you got gastrocnemius. You can see the lateral head of it. Helps to extend the ankle or plantar flex it. You can also see the soleus muscle, okay, also involved in plantar flexion. Here's another view, gastrocnemius, involved in plantar flexion, okay, also involved in flexing the leg. Soleus, deeper, more distal, also involved in plantar flexion. Okay, so here you can see after the gastrocnemius has been cut and removed, good view of these soleus. Okay, so I'll give y'all a couple of minutes, find these. Okay, so these are some of your deeper muscles. Okay, so if you actually remove the gastrocnemius and the soleus, you're able to see tibialis posterior, okay, which is involved in plantar flexion, inversion of the foot. You can see a bit of this digital flexor, flexor digitorum longus, involved in plantar flexion, as well as flexion of your toes. And flexor hallucis longus. Okay, it's involved in plantar flexion of the foot and flexion of your great toe. Okay. Sure.
So you know particular version on the picture?
Yes.
And then I'm going to modify these and then
So if you're going to test it on a small man model, it's going to be one of the superficial muscles. Now on the larger ones, when you can take the muscles off and show you the muscles underneath, that's when you might get one of those. Okay, so that is the muscles of the lower leg. Okay. Also kind of concludes our unit on the muscular system. All right, so we'll be prepping for the practical after this, so which will be next Thursday. All right, so quiz is this Thursday. All right.